Hello, everybody. Welcome to Porter's Place. Happy Friday. Big news here at the 904. The Jacksonville Jaguars have found their new head coach. Liam Cohen is the man the Jaguars have tasked with turning this organization around. Cohen is the youngest head coach in Jaguars history at 39 years young. He is coming here from Tampa, where he was the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Did great work with their offense. Their offense ranked third in the NFL, but most importantly, the work he did with Baker Mayfield. Mayfield putting up career numbers in passing yards with about 4,500 touchdowns, 41 touchdowns, and he completed more than 70% of his passes. Cohen released this statement that said, in part, becoming the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars is an opportunity of a lifetime and one that I'm going to run with to instill a championship culture and winning tradition here in Duval. He went on to say, this doesn't happen without the support and opportunities that my family and I have been afforded throughout my career, especially during the past season in Tampa Bay. We thank Todd Bowles for his continued support and the entire Buccaneers organization for the experience, and know they will have success ahead. As for Shad Khan, the Jaguars owner, he released this statement that said, in part, to repeat my message earlier this week, I am deeply committed to building a winner here in Jacksonville. I also believe in being judged by actions, not words. That's why I took swift and decisive action this week to hire Liam Cohen as the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am pumped that Liam is accepting the challenge and opportunity to build a winner that Jaguars fans and partners fully deserve. I know our players will feel the same. All right, joining me now is our NFL insider, James Coleman, who, like myself, we've been following this ever since the team fired Doug Peterson back on Black Monday in January. James, first of all, your thoughts on the Jaguars hiring Cohen?
Well, I mean, we got a bright young offensive mind that clearly has bought into Trevor Lawrence. And that's kind of what you were looking for because you put the money behind Trevor. So that's obviously your quarterback for the future. I think outside of Ben Johnson or Joe Brady, this is probably the best case scenario that they could get. But the reality is we were looking kind of funny out there in these streets. With Balky, people turning it down, him originally turning it down, Shad finally, being the thing that he need to push him over the edge to be able to go and get this nice new young fresh offensive mind to be able to come here. So it's not a grade A+ hire, but it's definitely much above board for what the trajectory the Jaguars were going to have to do.
James, we'll get back to the Balky situation in just a second, but let's just talk about what we saw, the work that Cohen did over in Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield. First of all, he comes from that Sean McVay tree. He spent some time out there with the Los Angeles Rams. Then I just said a few minutes ago, the Bucs were ranked third in total offense in the NFL. Then when you consider what he did with Mayfield, you have to feel good about it, especially knowing that Trevor Lawrence has not really evolved into that guy that the Jaguars thought he would be at this point.
I mean, if you think about Baker, kind of a similar situation. Top pick, guy you bring in to change your franchise, doesn't really pan out where he's at. The only difference is Baker's had to bounce around a couple places until he found his home in Tampa Bay. So you're hoping that this helps prevent Trevor from having to do that bouncing around part and he can figure it out. We also look at some of the similarities that the Jags have to the Bucs. The wide receiver situation. He figured out how to get the ball to Mike Evans. Do we have a guy that can figure out how to make sure we get the ball to Brian Thomas Jr., as well as our plethora of other weapons? They got the tight end involved. They were doing some good things in the running game, a couple of different backs. But he's got the tools to be able to make this offense efficient. But here comes the kicker, is does he have the command presence to make alpha males want to be able to fight for him? When you listen to what Trevor said at the end, it bothered me because at the end of the day, they're professionals, but leadership matters. And that's basically what Trevor echoed, is that we just didn't believe. And does he possess what they believe? He talked about bringing a championship culture to Jacksonville. From where? Again, that all sounds good, and I'm not saying he cannot do it, but how will he round out his staff? Because these guys are starved for some hard leadership that I probably feel either you should have got from a guy who's coming from a culture that has reestablished, which is why I like the Lions, or with some veteran presence. But he can make those things happen with his hires as a staff.
James, you talk about culture, and we know that the head coach sets the culture in the locker room. You know that better than I. You played at Florida State. You had a stint in the NFL. James, do you have any issue, though, with him first turning down the interview, then after turning down the second interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars, not having any communication with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers until late yesterday, about 5 o'clock, according to reports? He ignored the Bucs phone calls, a Bucs team that had offered to make him the highest paid coordinator in the NFL. He talks to Bowles around 5 o'clock, says, you know what, I'm going to entertain the Jaguars. But it's also being reported that he said the reason why he did not communicate with the Bucs before the conversation with Bowles because he had a sick kid. Now, listen. We know NFL, I'm going to use your analogy, not for long. We know coaching changes happen. Nobody's loyal in this business. But when you're walking into a locker room where you're trying to establish a culture and you see how he handled this situation, do you feel like that's going to be a problem or the players are going to be looking kind of side-eye?
No, I just think he just can't take things personally and understand things are business. He's about to get into a situation similar to that in free agency. One of my favorite things is I tell people athletes and politicians believe they're above regard because we treat them and hold them to a standard that's higher than ours. I mean, I know a lot of people who went on job interviews and said that they was taking their kid to the dentist or the doctor or a field trip or something, and next thing you know, they got a new job. They didn't get a 2 weeks notice. I would have liked him to handle it a little bit better, considering Todd Bowles gave him an opportunity. But at the same time, he needed to do what needed to be done. But I will say this: what makes me feel better about him is him turning down the second interview. And why do I say that? He turned down the foolery. The buffoonery. We've talked about it on this show with you before. I'm not taking this job if I don't think Trent Baalke is good and or I don't think he's going to be here after a year. So you would have to convince the head coach that he has comfort in the current GM or he brings in an assistant. That's backwards. Now, the strength and comfort in this job now is that you have to go find a GM that feels comfortable with you. And that means because Shad Khan hired you. The overall boss hired you. So there's no more stronger job security than what you're getting in now. And what's the whole purpose of becoming a coordinator? You don't become a coordinator unless you have aspirations and desires to be a head coach. There's only 32 of these jobs. They do come off, they come open about every 3 to 5 years, but you could miss your window. You have to strike while you're hot as a player, and you have to strike while you're hot as a coach. And, it is tough. It's a fraternity. You're going to see these guys, but I'm pretty sure there's no love lost when it comes to this, no bad blood, because at the end of the day, he's taking a better job. But I do think it's kind of funny to be able to, if he did, in fact, use his kid. I can't wait to the combine and when I see some of these guys, because if nobody else in the media is going to ask that question, I'm going to ask that question because I definitely use my kids every now and then when I don't want to do something.
I understand. James, we all know that after Shad Khan fired Doug Peterson back on January 6th, the question was, why is he hanging on to Trent Baalke? He said at that time during the news conference that to do an organization overhaul at that time would be suicide. You and I both know, number one, the fan base has wanted Trent Baalke out since the end of the 2021 season. You and I both knew as well that the top candidates, a la Ben Johnson, who's now the head coach of the Chicago Bears, said during last year's coaching cycle when he was a candidate, he had to have what he considered a perfect situation, meaning the GM, he had a say in that kind of thing. With all of that being said, why do you think Shad Khan even took the risk of hanging on to Baalke, knowing that the top candidates had an issue with him being the GM?
Baalke's got a mean talk game. And as I was talking to some of the other guys in the NFL, he's picked pretty good players. I mean, it's not that the roster is devoid of talent, they're devoid of motivation. But my counter to all of those things was he's been around. This would have been his third coaching hire. The only consistent piece is him. And I think, Shad where I think Shad should have cleaned house a long time ago, like with a firing, like completely, thoroughly clean house. Something about consistency and keeping something to changing of the guard means something to Shad. And I do understand where he's kind of coming from. Right now, we're kind of floating around naked. We don't have anybody to be able to organize the scouting of the draft or of the current players that are about to hit the free agent market. And you're going to have to rush. That's why you typically see the GM hire first and then the head coach. But Shad did it backwards. Shad did the firing backwards. It should have been Balky first, then Doug. But regardless, he has it done now. But I think it was just more of a thing where Shad's trying to maybe run this too much like what he feels traditional businesses run like, and not enough like how the NFL goes, because it is a year calendar, and you've got to be able to make sure you're doing things in a timely manner so that you can make the right choices, so you don't put this young coach, in a position where he's already behind the eight ball.
I also thought it was interesting. According to reports, Balky wasn't the only reason why Cohen initially turned down the second interview. It was Balky, plus he wanted to be paid along the lines of Ben Johnson, the new head coach of the Detroit Lions. Ultimately, he got the pay. Ultimately, Balky is gone. He also wanted to select his GM. So with that being said, James, it sounds like Cohen, as you said, is taking full advantage of a team that was desperate, in desperate need of a head coach after fumbling the bag, as the young folks like to say, out of the gate. And it sounds like to me that in these negotiations, that he may have a GM that he wants and that he's told Khan already to go get.
I mean, when you've been told no numerous times, you do what you got to do to get the girl that you want to take to prom. And that's basically what it is right now. I mean, like I said, you shoot for the queen, and then you take the one that you know won't say no. And what ends up happening, but now instead of her just saying yes, she has stipulations. Give me the limo. Give me the roses. Give me the croissant. Give me all those things. Take me to the Michelin star restaurant. But I like that about him. It shows that he has a shrewdness about him that could bode well in the NFL. So I'm curious to know, who he's going to go with, because the reality is he was in college not too long ago. So he was an offensive coordinator for the University of Kentucky. So it's kind of like, okay, you do have some relationships, but it's not really that strong. What I'm afraid of is we'll be in a situation that we were similar to when Shad first took over the franchise. Except for the only difference is we won't have a rookie owner. But when he first took it over, he had a rookie owner, rookie head coach, rookie GM. Hopefully he has the wherewithal to find somebody with him that has some experience or cachet in the NFL, so that we don't make mistakes and we're still here kind of stinking 10 years later, or so many years later, that we kind of get this corrected, because it doesn't take a lot. It just takes having the right guy that can create the spark, because regardless of what the record is, we aren't that far away.
Yeah, this guy has 15 years of coaching experience. And I think the biggest thing, the GM is big, but people really will be watching to see who he hires as a defensive coordinator, because we know the issues that we've had there the last couple of years of ball. But let's not address the elephant in the room. We have to. Trevor Lawrence. He said after Peterson was fired that if he had his way, he wanted an offensive-minded coach. He's got his offensive-minded coach. James, third coach in the last 5 years. James, at this point, I firmly believe Trevor Lawrence has no more excuses. He has got to take that next step this year. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the crazy part is that you can't make demands when you're the franchise quarterback, but typically you're the franchise quarterback when you've done things to make sure you're truly at the helm of the franchise, and he hasn't really done that yet. So it's cool that he got with his 1 star, but he goes with this coach. If this coach wins, then he will be in Jacksonville for quite some time, and he'll be making a lot more money, and realtors will be happy that the economy is going to boom. If they lose, there's another coach that's going to come in, and you're going to go out with the trash as well. So a lot of the onus comes on you. You've had offensive-minded coaches. For all the things, Herb was a special teams coach in college, but he's a guy that had innovative offenses and hired people, guys that play with grit. It did not work with him out the gate. Doug Peterson is literally a quarterback who brought in the best guys to be able to get you in for 1 year of work. At the end of the day, we keep pointing the fingers. When you point one finger, 3 point back at you. Is it all starts and ends with you. You distributing the ball like a point guard. You being able to know when to take the deep shots. You being able to know when to not make the foolish plays that you still make to this point. He has all the tools. He had all the hype coming in. You have the receivers now. At this point, you need to just make plays regardless of who the coach is. Because I promise you, every offensive play is designed to score. And that's the problem. If we did what every offensive play was designed to do a little bit more, you wouldn't be on Coach 3 in year 5.
James, also, the last couple of years, Trevor Lawrence has not been there during that final stretch, those 9, 8, 10 games, the final stretch of the season. Should we be concerned that Trevor's injury prone and is going to be one of those guys that you can't count on to play 15, 16, if not all 17 games?
I mean, you are what your tape says, and that's basically what it is. But I think his injuries come from just the way he plays. He just doesn't make, at times, the smart football move. No matter how we feel about the Texans here, slide early in that situation. You know that guy. You know there's a headhunter out there. Slide earlier. Don't take the sack. Use your legs to get out of bounds. I mean, when we look at Patrick Mahomes for all of the things that people say that the referees give him the benefit of the doubt, he's able to get down quick. He's able to get out of bounds. We need Trevor to protect his body and use it as an asset and not just, we know the guaranteed money is the guaranteed money, but like let's play like you're trying to guarantee some wins. So take care of your biggest asset a little bit more, and I think we'll be fine.
I floated around the idea the first time we did Porter's Place here. And I said, I think it would behoove the next head coach to not necessarily put on the coaching staff, but have like Tony Baselli, Fred Taylor help in building that culture. There have been reports that Tony Baselli played a big role in the Jaguars getting Cohen to come back. Your thoughts, James, on possibly leaning on the Fred Taylors, the Tony Basellis, who have been a part of Jaguars teams that have won in the past, in trying to build this franchise now into a consistent winner?
I'm all about paying homage to your legends, but I'm also all about professionals doing what professionals do. And Tony does a great job of covering the NFL, is Hall of Famer, all the different things. You definitely want him around. But if we're going to bring Jaguar players back, we need to bring those back who are actually kind of doing this. And that's not just for Jags. That's my opinion when it comes to my alma mater. It's my opinion when it comes to a lot of things. I'm for it, but at the end of the day, if they don't know, if they've never been a part of a head coaching hiring process, their opinion is no different than you or I's. I mean, we can have a strong opinion, but we don't know what goes into the head coaching hiring process. I can talk about what I like. I haven't played for a legendary head coach, but I can tell you what I think from a player's perspective, but I don't really know from from the front office perspective and all of the different things that go into it. But I really do think what they could do, and they used to have the Jaguar legends where the guys came in and they did it for the fans and they were around. Don't get rid of that idea, but create some kind of mentorship process, if nothing else for the rookies, where those guys were Tony Baselli, Fred Taylor, Big Leon, a guy like Michael Ross, like guys from all over the place, like from your highest of your highs to the lowest of the lows on the rosters, can talk to these young men about what it's like to be an NFL player in this great city. And because I think a lot of times the off the field stuff is really what ends up getting players. That can help create more locker room culture and camaraderie. But outside of that, I think you got to let the execs be the execs and the players and the former players be the former players. Speak the language to those of which the culture you are a part of. Don't go, stay in our lanes, and I think we'll be all right.
James, in the roles that we work in television, it's never too soon to start looking ahead. It's never too early to start talking about the future. And I'm going to do this here. In your eyes, in his first year, year one, what does success look like for Liam Cohen?
Very simple. Delay draft talk as long as we can. All I look for every year in the Jags is I want to play meaningful games in November. Then after we get done playing meaningful games in November, let's play some meaningful games in December. And if we're in December, at least until the second week of December, we haven't given up hope for making the playoffs. This man has had a successful first year. That means he has done the locker room. That means he's basically he's better than where he was at now. The problem that we've had is before Black Friday, we're already looking forward to Black Monday when we're firing coaches for too long. If I'm shopping for my Christmas and for my kids, but I'm also excited to be able to come on Sports Final because I know we're going to talk about where we may be going for the playoffs, then this man has done his job. And if he makes the playoffs in year one, he is really going to set the bar high. Don't let him win the game. I mean, but then again, Doug did that. But Doug's reason why he's not here is that he did not consistently do that. The city deserves a winner. And this city, I've seen from hanging out with guys at a cigar lounge and interacting with people with different things, they love a winner. And they talk about those 90s teams like they won a Super Bowl, even though they didn't. But the city was fun when it was winning. 2017, I still remember that year. It was crazy. We all forgot our normal sports schedules and like a lot of different things because we didn't expect to be playing that long. 2 years ago, my son was already a Jag fan, but became a real Jacksonville Jaguar fan, being in the basically 2 playoff games, the play in the last game, and then the comeback against the Chargers in the freezing cold. He was able to witness all of these different things. And I think that's what creates the memory. So again, everybody, they're starved for a winner. If he wins, he will be considered. Mayor Deegan's going to get mad because he will be considered basically the mayor if he's able to figure that out.
You know, I don't think she's going to be mad because she's a diehard Jag fan. I'm sure she'd rather be second fiddle to him if this team is good when we haven't enjoyed as much success as we thought we would have. I'm going to wrap it up with this, James, before we go. If you are Brian Thomas Jr., who had a sensational rookie season, if you are an Evan Ingram, if you are a Travis Etienne, get me excited. Why should they be excited about this hire?
Because, again, you're coming to a guy who had the third ranked offense in the NFL. And you know he's going to try to push the ball down the field. If you're Brian Thomas Jr., you're seeing what he's doing with Mike Evans toward the end of his career. And you're in the beginning of your career. So you should – and you are different. You're a take the top off the defense type of guy. So you have a skill set that hasn't had necessarily. When you're Gabe, you see what he's done with with Mike Evans, and that's you. You're able to see these things. You know that he's going to take these wide receiver pieces and his running back, and they're going to be able to pair these things together and be able to make a happy marriage. And if he's able to do that in Tampa with Baker Mayfield, who was all but giving up hope on, with guys that have hope that you still feel you can squeeze something out of them, you feel he can maybe take you to that next level. And if nothing else, you'll be able to put up points. As long as you score more points than the other team, you're going to win every game. So that's the goal. And offense sells tickets as well.
My Pro Bowler, my brother from another mother, our NFL insider, James Coleman. I love you, James. Thanks for jumping on here last minute. You know you're my guy, and I look forward to seeing you Sunday night on Sports Final, my friend.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, James. Again, the big news of the day, the Jacksonville Jaguars have hired Liam Cohen as their new head coach, 39 years young. This is his first head coaching gig. He is the youngest head coach in Jacksonville Jaguars history. He has more than a decade of coaching experience, and he is the man who is charged with not only turning the franchise around, but in the process of doing that, making Trevor Lawrence actually evolve into that generational quarterback that many people said that he was coming out of the University of Clemson. Now the Jags have got to find a general manager, and we'll be following that as well. Big story today. Jacksonville Jaguars have a new head coach. That's it from Porter's Place. I'll see you guys later.